It's not just elected officials that need to protect the integrity of our election system. I mean, obviously they have a role to play, but you and I have a part to play. And quite frankly, I think it's a big part. You've heard me say before, as Americans, we have a right to vote. I served in our nation's military. I was in the Marine Corps. So many men and women who have served to protect the fundamental freedoms of this country. We have a right to vote. But as Christians, I believe we have a responsibility to vote. So that's a big part of voting. But there's ways to do it. And so what do we need to do? Joining me now to talk about this, Christian Adams. He's president and general counsel of the Public Interest Legal Foundation. Christian has also served in the voting section at the Department of Justice, where he won awards for outstanding service, and as general counsel to the South Carolina Secretary of State. He brought the first private party litigation resulting in the cleanup of corrupted voter rolls under the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, and he has handled cases in 20 different states. Christian, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I want to jump right into this one question of, our role as voters. What can my listeners do? We want to see lawmakers not change the laws and not, use this pandemic to change the rules at the last minute. What can we do?
Well, probably there's two things. One is care and vote. And when you do decide to vote, the way to make sure that your vote is counted is to vote in person and to feed that ballot into the counting machine and make sure it gets counted. Because if you vote by mail, there's so many mail ballots every year that don't get accepted, that get lost by the post office, that are rejected for tiny defects. The way to make sure your vote counts is to vote in person.
Yeah, in fact, it's been documented. I think I've read this in your testimony before Congress that since 2012, there's been somewhere in the neighborhood of 28 million ballots unaccounted for.
That's right. They were mailed out to voters who were going to cast absentee ballots. They never came back and were counted. A lot of those were rejected. A lot of them got lost in the mail. A lot of them went to the wrong place. I had one critic who criticized our characteristic as missing, as saying they aren't missing, they're in landfills. It's like, well, Jimmy Hoffa's not missing, he's just unaccounted for. They weren't counted. There are 28 million ballots in the last 4 federal elections.
And so if you want to make sure that your ballot counts, the best thing to do is if you want to stay away from the crowds, early vote or turn that ballot in yourself. Don't let someone else take it for you, and make sure that chain of custody is maintained.
Right, and get it into the counting machine. If you feel better having lots of hand sanitizer and a mask, even if you want to have goggles, wear them, because your vote is important, and voting by mail is not a guarantee that your vote will be counted.
Yeah, I'm quite frankly, I don't want to offend our postal workers who are listening to the program out here, but when you're getting Christmas cards on President's Day, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence in the Postal Service.
Like I said, we do not want to turn over who gets elected President of the United States to the organization that very often brings me my neighbor's mail.
Yeah. So the best thing to do, and this election is so, every election is important, but this is going to be so close. Every vote counts. People need to vote. And so as Christian was saying, if you got to put on the goggles, the gloves, hazmat suit, whatever's required, go to the polls and vote. But there's more that we can do to protect the integrity of the system as voters, as citizens.
There is. I will tell you that there's a shortage every year of good people working as poll officials. You're essentially a government official running the election. And I will tell you that a lot of organizations focus on filling these roles up, these jobs up, with people who might be willing to, shall we say, bend the rules. And it's very, very important that people who care about clean elections volunteer to be poll officials. I guarantee, and plus a lot of times you get paid. I guarantee in your local hometown that they have a need for people to volunteer as poll officials.
Yeah.
I know it's not a lot of fun, but it's really important.
It is, especially, again, I go back to this election, how divided the nation is and what is at stake in this election. We need to be voting, and we need to be taking what steps we can to protect the integrity of our system. Christian, is it also beneficial for folks to, be talking about this topic on social media and maybe even in that antiquated model of writing letters to the editor, and letting people know that, look, we can't allow our system to be hijacked by those that have ulterior motives, that yes, there might be concerns about the coronavirus, but there's ways to still vote and vote safely and ensure the integrity of the system.
Boy, you cannot understate how important that is. Everybody that I know has strong beliefs, but not everybody wants to share them. And I will tell you that, and I hate to draw lines of demarcation, but the folks who would let the vulnerabilities thrive in our system are very vocal, are very active on social media, are very much in your face, evangelizing. It's their version of evangelization.
Yeah.
Don't doubt that. And they're out there evangelizing.
Christian Adams, thanks so much for joining us today, and appreciate all the work over there at the Public Interest Legal Foundation.
Thank you so much for having me.